Patch 1.1 did not only bring us a new story and new characters, but also 2 new endgame modes in the form of Follow Zero's Inferno Reap and, the topic of this video, the Disputed Nodes for Shiyu Defense. After clearing stable node 5, the 8 available disputed nodes can be attempted, and contrarily to the stable and critical nodes, the disputed nodes do not have a timer, or even thrash mobs for that matter. Instead, you directly face one or later on even 2 bosses head on, and the only goal is to defeat them without dying. Not even once if you want the S rating. And we do want the S rating. That also means, in theory, if you are not plagued as much by skill issues as I am, you could clear any side with one singular level 1 character, even without any equipment. You might need to dodge perfectly for like 10 hours straight, but hey, I mean, you could. However, most people either do not have the skill for that, like me, or don't have the time to spend 10 hours on something that could also be achieved with a properly built team in just a few minutes. So let's talk about the best teams for every single node in this new game mode. Oh, and before we start, please note these are one-time rewards, and that means you're in no rush obtaining those, so please don't feel rushed. Because all of the earlier nodes are easily doable, we will spend a little bit less time on these than on the later ones. Node 1 has only one side, which favors fire and resists electric damage and increases days inflicted by defensive assists. This means ranged characters who inherently do not have a defensive assist because they have an evasive assist instead, and especially electric agents are a much worse choice here. Soldier 11, Lucy and Kolidar is probably the best team for this node as of right now, but you can honestly brute force this with basically any non-electric team. I mean, you can also brute force it with an electric team, but this video is about the best teams, not the worst ones. Node 2 again features only one side with a weakness to electric and a resistance to fire and physical. Honestly, any electric team such as Grace, Anton and Chingy, or even a weird mashup like I did of Grace or Anton with Chingy and even Sokaku can work. Apparently at least, who needs additional abilities anyway? We are fortunately early enough in here that it does not really matter too much yet. Starting with node 3, we finally need 2 teams, and while side 1 favors fire and physical yet again, the second half this time wants either ice or ether, with the first half being resistant to those. Node 3 also favors EX special users, and that means any unit with low EX special costs or high energy regeneration can make great use of this. While Jane is not released yet, Jane, Nekomata and Soldier 11 are good choices here. Neko and Soldier 11 can be paired well with any combination of Kolidar, Piper or Lucy, although Nico favors Piper over Kolidar. Jane does well with Piper and Lucy, or likely also Grace and Seth when he is released. Burners with any combination of Jane, Piper, Lucy and Caesar are likely a good choice as well, but it is still a while until those units are released, unfortunately. And lastly, if you want to play Billy or Corin, you can do so as well. Fortunately enough, Node 3 is not difficult enough that we actually have to choose, and we can basically take all DPS units in regards to physical and fire. For the first half, Nekomata is the best choice, but as we are still in the lower nodes, any of the previous teams will do well enough. For the second half, Alan, Lycorn and Sokaku are the best choice, but Sujuan, Nicole and either Anbi or Chinyi will do fine as well. Node 4 heavily favors impact users, and that means we are now looking at stunners. Finally, we also have some fire resistance in the first half with a weakness to electric within the second half, again favoring ice and ether. Even though the first half does not favor ether, if you have both Sujuan and Alan, a team of Sujuan, Nicole and either Ambi or Chingy can do very well in the first half as well, simply due to the increased buff to either Chingy or Anbi. Otherwise, a mono-electric team with Grace, Anton and either Chingy or Anbi does very well inside this node. If you do not have Grace, Rina can work as well by having a stronger focus on Anton carry. With the second half yet again favoring Ice and Ether, we can take the same teams as before. With node 5, we now slowly start to get into the more difficult territory. Enemies are already at level 55, and with a buff to parries, with another electric weakness in the first half and a fire physical weakness in the second half, we can still take many of the previous mentioned teams, but we want to make sure to actively use our parries. This also means that on-fielders are now slightly worse. While Anton, Chingy or Anbi and Grace or Rina still do fantastic in the first half, Burst style DPS are now slightly favored in the second half. Billy with either Chingy or Ambi and Nicole, Corrin with Chingy and Rina, or Nekomata with Kolleda, Chingy or Ambi, and Lucy or Nicole will do their job pretty well. Again, if you're skilled enough or have well invested characters, any team will do. With Node 6 we now need even more skill simply because enemies now start doing damage and are also becoming quite tanky. Also spoiler, but Nodes 6, 7 and 8 all have the same weaknesses with Ice and Ether on side 1 and Fire and Physical on side 2. This also means if you did not get Alan or Sujuan, progressing further will be a challenge. Or at least time consuming. Node 6 heavily favors Anomaly, and since we do not have an Ice or Ether Anomaly unit as of yet, any of these teams here will do their job the best they can. These teams are also your best choice for side 1 of Nodes 7 and 8 as well, so I won't repeat myself. Piper, Burnus and Jane will be the best carries for Node 6 second half, however with Jane and Burnus not yet released, Piper is the best choice. If you have Piper not built, any of the previous fire or physical teams will need to suffice. Node 7 favors dodge, and this gives on-field DPS agents a slight boost over their burst DPS counterparts. This means Jane and Soldier 11 are here the best choices, but again, if you do not have those units or do not have them leveled and built, Nico, Piper, Billy or Corrin can work as well. In the end, the most important part is to clear the node. And lastly, Node 8. Honestly, at this point I will just repeat myself of what I have said before, and with this node giving a boost to dodges and parries as well, any of the previous teams is fine as long as they are, well, fire or physical, or you bring more time. Personally, I have been heavily skill gapped here cause these two guys on the second half are attacking so aggressively that at this point it is a simple matter of how well you can parry and dodge. For me, the second half in Node 8 is an actual skill check, and while I personally love that, I still have been shown pretty aggressively how bad I am at this game. And in the end, clearing all 8 nodes with an S rating, that means no unit has died in all nodes and all sites. That will reward you with 1600 polychromes, which is a 10 pull, 360,000 Denny, 70 noise reduction master copies, 14 W engine chips for crafting, well, W engines, and 1600 investigation merits. With 5 out of the 8 nodes having a physical or fire weakness, and 4 of these being the nodes 5 to 8 if you do not have Nekomata, Piper or Soldier 11 or even Billy or Corrin built yet, Jane, Burnus and Caesar are all good upcoming characters who will likely perform very well in these nodes. On the other hand, if you have skipped both Sujuan and Alan, quite a few and especially the latter nodes might become slightly more tedious as you are now playing against no weaknesses. While still well doable, since the only actual requirement for these nodes is being able to dodge and parry, well, it will take you significantly more time, and longer combat means more room for errors. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave me a comment about if you have already attempted the disputed nodes or not, and if yes, how far are you currently? I wish you a great day. Peace.